Pramod Kumar is an Australian studies scholar and received prestigious India Council Fellowship. He also acted as a cultural ambassador of India and gave lectures on India's incredible cultural diversity. His areas of interest and expertise include new literature and world literature in English, literary theory and criticism, distance education, South Asian politics, Australian studies, translation theory, and research. He is the coordinator of PG diploma program in book publishing. He has authored 6 books centering on literature, criticism, and translation. He is supervising PhD research in the university, and his research students are building upon new ways of understanding and interpreting the changes around. His research articles in the national and international journals have a widespread following. He has organized a number of important national and international seminars to promote at various international forums and larger humanity. He has represented the country at various international forums and promoted the cause of equality, peace, and global citizenship. He has been an international fellow of Australian India Council and has represented the country in Australia, UK, USA, Korea, Cambodia, Nepal, Malaysia, Thailand. Professor Pramod has been member of many school boards in university and across the nation has initiated several important campaigns such as youth for service. He has been appointed research board member in many universities in and outside India and holds membership of various learned bodies. He has been awarded as Ambassador for Peace by the Universal Peace Federation and nominated as the President of Youth Federation of World Peace India chapter. So I would like to invite Professor Pramod Kumar Mehra for his keynote address. Over to you, sir. Sir, kindly unmute yourself.
अरे खुल रही हमारी उन्होंने म्यूट नहीं कर रखा
Sir, kindly unmute yourself.
Okay, I think yes.
Yes.
I hope all of you can hear me.
Yes.
Exactly. You are audible to us, sir, and visible.
All right. Thank you very much, first of all, for this kind and generous sense of introduction. And this is perhaps, this is something that I have been trying to do to make a dent to the scheme of things from the academic perspective. And I'm least like, I mean, in any way, I don't promote that sense of personal thing. And what you are doing as far as English language teaching and the issues and challenges in the Indian perspective, that is more crucial. And I would like to, at the very outset, may I communicate my sincere sense of admiration and appreciation for the organizers, the Department of Humanities, Faculty of Engineering and Computer Science, TMU, Moradabad, for the present this important, significant e-conference on ELT today. And when we are discussing the theme of conference, English language teaching, the issues and challenges in the Indian perspective, it is so very significant. And the active deliberation that I'm sure we all will all together will be able to achieve and arrive at a higher pedestal of understanding with the help of all the participants. You see, you have given me this opportunity, and it is important that we identify with the challenges and prospects of teaching English in India. And I think it is when we are thinking in that direction, the context is very important. But in 21st century, if you look at ELT, if you look at ELT in the context of a post-colonial evolving, developing situation, it is very important that we look at what is a living language. How do we characterize that? How do we relate to that concept? So I think a living language is a subject to change, and it is in the process of progressing, evolving, of achieving the ideal. I mean, it is not that very specific, very you can say a kind of very monolithic kind of construct. It is in fact, breathing and always pulsating kind of movement. So I think when we are discussing it in the context of Indian situation, we have to look at how we will make ELT more lively. And if we look at the next step, the more advanced the level of its development, the greater the power of expressing abstract ideas or general ideas. You see, I'm trying to develop like a sense of idea of a living language. You see, if we understand that, only then we will be able to understand the contours of our topic. And any number of delicate shades of meaning can be expressed with equal ease. In a living language, it allows us to communicate, sound and sense, and in a sense of perfect harmony. And I think, like, in that sense, we have to make English a living language, because and when we are teaching it in our classrooms, it has to have those characteristics. I think English as a language, we find that it is there in all corners of India. English is the language, what Marshall McLuhan calls, is a language of the global village. It is a language of trade and industry. English is full of knowledge and information, and knowledge that can be used in connecting people having different tongues. So, and if you look at like how, different philosophers and thinkers about this ELT concept, what they have said in considering the position of English language in India, the outside consideration of English is the language of the government, public administration, and the legislature and law of courts. It is the language of commerce and business. It is the medium of communication between two persons, and various other language areas. So this is important. When India became independent, then we find that a controversy began as to like what is the place, importance of the study of English. And then we discuss about the three language formula. The place and position of English can be summarized as, in a way that, like, English is not being taught as a compulsory subject as the lower primary level. It is taught only in some private schools. English is taught as a compulsory subject at the upper primary level in class 5, 6, and 7. But there are not enough qualified teachers in India. It is being taught as a compulsory subject at secondary level in class 8th, 9th, and 10th. In higher secondary level, if we look at it, we find that it is being taught as a compulsory subject in 11th, and it is also being taught as a compulsory subject at the college level. Students who have passed HSC exam without English, they are allowed to offer English at the college level in some universities, and they have to study English compulsory subject. When we look at explore the linkages of language in relation to society, I think language such as English or any other language, it helps man to live in the society. And I think language is an index of personality. It restores relationship between man and the environment, and it is a medium of literature, language of immense, like, to connect cultures. It is very important. I think, like, when we are looking at the challenges and prospects of ELT, I find that there are issues that we have to identify and then resolve in the process of ELT in India. Although the English language teaching institutes in Allahabad, Hyderabad have done a lot to improve the English teaching in India by producing, textbooks, gramophone records, flashcards, pictures, training teachers, popularizing structural approach of teaching English. Yet there are following problems which create unhealthy situations, conditions for adequate teaching of English in our country. And I find that neglecting the aims of teaching English, the teaching of English in our context, for example, in India, and I would say third world in particular, is not in accordance with the aims of teaching English. Many times, like neither the teacher nor the student is acquainted completely with this concept, and teacher not only wants that his student should pass the examination, but like excel. So the main aim in this way gets neglected. Place of English in school curriculum, the problem of giving a proper place to English is still untackled. And I think that if I may flash some questions before you, what is like, from which class should study English, should the study of English start, up to which class should it study last? Should English be a compulsory subject? If yes, up to which class should it be a compulsory subject? We have to look at the condition of classes also, in the sense that overcrowded classes, shortage of buildings, lack of that overcrowding is troubling us, and due to we have infrastructural issues, language labs issues that are troubling us, so that we have to give our students and learners a complete experience. If I may give you a couple of insights from my university in IGNU, we are trying to build up a kind of substantial resource as far as ELT is concerned. We have courses running, in the sense that we have certificate in teaching of English, certificate in functional English. We have developed, like under the blended learning mode, we have developed courses, resources which, like, through good qualitative content material, then audio videos support, and then we connect to our learners in the physical way also. So in that sense, I think when we are uh, exploring the issues and perspectives and challenges, I understand that the old method of teaching English, for example, in Indian schools, teachers are still using like those ways, which may be like, which may require to be revisited, to be and reascertained, like translation come grammar method of teaching, the new approaches in which we talk about structural and situational experiences, are not still popular with our teachers. As a consequence, our students are facing all kinds of demerits of translation come grammar method, and a divide of advantages of new effective methods and approaches. I would also like to flash that there is a lack of uniform policy. When we look at there is no uniform policy regarding the beginning of English language teaching in our schools. At present, there are 3 different stages at which the teaching of English is introduced, like early stage, age 6 to 9 years in the parts of West Karnataka, middle stage, age 11 to 12 years in parts of Bengal, Kashmir, Odisha, Delhi, Madhya Pradesh, and Uttar Pradesh. We find that English is introduced at the beginning of secondary education. And there we can have another classification, that is later stage, age of 14 years in some states. For example, like if we go about naming those, Gujarat, English is taught during the first 4 years of secondary education, and you find that the textbooks are needed to be of a high standard, and we pointing to this problem, like so many people have come out and they have said that because of distribution and patronage, and because of fear of charges of favoritism, a reader which is an organic part of one series of so this is like there are issues where we look at sometimes even the non-relevant things and less important things are also communicated. So this is like English textbooks need improvement. I think that is something that through this conference, through this important event, we can there has to be more meticulous, organized, standardized approach that we have to invest in as far as English textbooks are concerned, and an Indianized version. Like if we can create a situation where our learners can relate more to the life conditions, as far as syllabus, as far as curriculum, as far as teaching methods, as far as teaching tools are concerned, we have to Indianize, and we have to, I mean, like if we are teaching daffodils, if we are teaching like too much of Western steps, if our students are not able to see the daffodils and they relate to that British flower, that will be very challenging. So yes, if I may briefly go beyond this, I think that selection and selection of vocabulary and illustrations, genuine illustrations, suitable subject matter, suitable language and style, keeping in view more research is required to ascertain the suitability of language and style, depending on the age groups, depending on the classes, and suitable exercises and glossary relevance, also an abridgment of English stories to suit Indian conditions. That is very important. So I mean, we can always when we are if you look at an English literature, Indian English literature has come a full circle now. In the last 100 years, we find that there is huge evolution, and when we are teaching English language, I think we can incorporate seamlessly the conditions of our situations, when we are talking about an Indian experience, Indianizing the text, it is important. So in fact, if you look at if standards of the textbooks they are improved, and if they are written by teachers teaching in schools, I think it will be important. And I think that there are some issues have cropped up because those who are teaching in those particular schools, I mean senior teachers, if they are given that job and responsibility, it will be easier, and we will be able to take care of that part. Because as we in that proverb, we say that only the wearer know where the shoe pinches. So in that sense, it will be meaningful that we take into account. And I think if I may broadly if we look at the there are issues in the teachers, and in the level of effective and competent teachers, but I'll not take too much of that, because at the level of English language teachers, there has to be adequate training, and teachers who have not offered teaching of English at the B.Ed level, that should be discouraged sometimes. And those who have not studied that they are also given to teach English, and lack of initiative and innovation, a kind of love and inner sense of fascination and attraction for this language is important. So besides the workload, a teacher has to be internally motivated. That is very important. I think if I have given you a image of how we are being troubled by situations, I think it's time that we look at the prospects also, and how do we understand that language classes should not be in a one-person show, and students as well as the teachers should play multi roles. It has to be dialogic, it has to be action centric, it has to be activity based. And sometimes we find that students should look to be I mean they should be silent listeners, and that at another time they should be active participants. I think the basic and the needed skills have to be developed in a language class, which acts as a stress reliever, and at times and a refreshing spring, which makes the students ready to compete and withstand and excel in this world of a rat face. It is very important, my dear participants, and all I mean, when I'm talking to the organizers also, it is important that we look at a new and emerging technology which is now available. If we can, like, if we can think of open-ended activities which are suggested as a mean to differentiate instructions by allowing students to work at their own rules, use their preferring learning styles, investigate their own interests, and produce work commensurate with their abilities. I think this is important, that I mean, as teachers, we can give our students the same activity and quality of instructions with the differentiation occurring in the children's response, reflecting of their abilities and interests. This is also important, that if you are differentiating learner experience through learner responses, may be a powerful instructional strategy for maintaining both challenges and democratic principles of the class. I think this, this sense of balancing of learner characteristics with the features of their learning experience in fundamental principles is very crucial. And if I may, like, try and kind of sum it up, I think, the role of activities in providing autonomy to learners, which means making use of the capacity of being responsible for own learning process with the help of available resources, it is important. And I think, like, when we are discussing it today, the syllabus is negotiated between learners and teachers with self-instruction and self-direction and individualization. I think I would, in that sense, recommend that English learners must be extensive readers, teachers must be extensive readers. They must reward and efforts to be in that direction should be rewarded, so as to motivate their struggle to acquire that skill. And government, as a matter of priority, should make available all necessary facilities that will empower teaching and learning of English. I'll try to stop here. And, like, I think that, as far as English language teachers, and this as a fold that we are trying to promote, perpetuate, strengthen, and kind of augment, it is very important that we incorporate the Indian experience and all, in a constitutive way, in a situation where we can kind of bring all factors together and bridge all gaps and convert those gaps into our strength areas. Like these days, and teaching vocabulary, teaching grammar, teaching, we need to be more dynamic and alert as far as whether we are able to communicate and kind of reach out to our learners and students. So I'll stop here, and I would, once again, a sense of compliment and communicate my admiration and appreciation for this important effort that you have put in. I'll stay connected, and if there is anything more from my end, I'll keep writing about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insightful speech. And your thoughts motivated us, and ENT related points you have given us. These are very on the practical ground. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Ms. Vanshika Dixit to present the paper. Vanshika, I am audible to you. Vanshika? We are going to start a technical session, and we have two technical sessions here. Dr. Jareen Farooq and Dr. Sandeep Verma. And first, Vanshika Dixit is going to present the paper. Vanshika, over to you. Vanshika, you are not audible to us.
Good morning. Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, good morning, all of you. First of all, I would like to thank the Faculty of Engineering and Computer Sciences for this opportunity. My topic for today is the bilingual method of English language teaching, learning, a study in reference to New Education Policy 2020-20. So, English has been acknowledged as world's most imperative language owing to its communicative and its educative value, since it has been used all over the world, not out of imposition, but because we have realized how much is it important. The inception of IT revolution and most of software and operating system being in English language has brought in this trail the emergence of a new utility for written and oral communication in English language. The most obvious reason for considering English as a lingua franca of the world is due to the fact that world's knowledge is enshrined in English. Over and above, English across the globe is acclaimed for its power of expression and its rich literature. Language learning is a natural process for the natives. Nevertheless, as far as the students of the other languages are concerned, deliberate efforts are can lead to mastery of a foreign language. The students of rural and semi-urban areas in India come across such hindrances as majority of the institutions witness mixed ability students who have different level of attention, challenges to teachers. Students from rural areas have mindset of considering English is a subject despite realizing that English is a language of communication used around the globe. So to, to bring a change in above mentioned situation, a systematic approach should be followed. Teachers should aim attaching principle, not knowledge, but skills. Bilingual method empowers the mother tongue, which is used to accomplish the target language, which is English. Bilingual method beyond beyond the shadow of the doubt is apt to Indian multicultural context where people converse in different regional dialects. The significant contribution of this method is that it had made possible for students to get both quantitative and qualitative acquisition of language skills. So now I would like to talk about how the education of English started in India. So is history of Indian education system and introduction of English language teaching. So India has been the world's largest democracy ever since its independence from the British rule in 1947. The introduction of English language teaching and the introduction of the modern education system, both are dated back to the 18th. English language was introduced to India in the 17th century when English businessmen came to the country as traders, and even after British rule was over in the middle of the 20th century, English remained in use till date. So the main three agents of modern education in India were the British government or the East India Company as we know it, the Christian missionaries and Indian intellectuals and reformers. So, British education policy in colonial India was initially almost non-existent as their sole purpose was to make profit through trade and other means. Gradually, the importance of education was appreciated and the company started building a few institutions of higher learning. These learning centers taught Indian subjects in languages like Sanskrit, Arabic, and Persian. Persian was the court language too. The company wanted some educated Indians who could assist them in administration of the land, as the local people would trust their people more than they would trust the Britishers. Also, they wanted to understand the local customs and laws. On the other hand, the missionaries, they supported the spread of Western education in India primarily for their police-stating activities. They wanted to spread the teaching of the gospel and establish many schools with education, only being a means to end, which was Christianizing the natives. So the Indian reformers believed that to keep up with times, a modern education system was needed to spread rational thinking and scientific principles, and this was marked as the beginning of the modern education in India. So, in the beginning, there was a split in the government over what kind of education was to be offered to the Indians. So, there was a class of people called the Orientalists. They preferred Indians to be given traditional Indian education, and some others, however, wanted Indians to be educated in the Western style of education and be taught Western subjects. There was also another difficulty regarding the language of instruction. Some wanted the use of Indian languages, which were also called the vernaculars, while others preferred English. In 1835, it was decided that Western sciences and literature would be imparted to Indians through the medium of English by Lord Williams Bentinck's government. Bentinck had appointed Thomas Babington Macaulay as the chairman of the Journal Committee of Public Instruction. Macaulay was a proud Englishman convinced of his own nation's greatness, achievement, which is considered the best, whether it was in the sciences or the arts. Nothing was wrong with that, except that he was perhaps too prejudiced to see things from a different perspective, and his famous minutes revealed his scant regard for the Indians. In his, in his minute on education, he justified the use of English as the medium of instruction and also the teaching of Western education to Indians. He lampooned Indian knowledge and languages and thought them completely worthless. For instance, he said of Indian literature, and I quote, a single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. He also believed that Western science was far superior to Indian knowledge. It is, I believe, no exaggeration to say that all the historical information which has been collected from all the books written in the Sanskrit language is less valuable that may be found in the most paltry abridgments used as preparatory schools in India. And this was Macaulay's words. Of course, one must remember that these were not just his own ideas or opinions. He was merely reiterating what many in the West thought at that time. Macaulay minutes refer to his proposal of education for the Indians, although there was a class of Orientalists who believed that Indians should be taught in the native language only, and one of them was Sir Charles Wood. Macaulay's proposals were officially sanctioned then in March 1835, and this is how the English learning teaching began in India. According to an article of the site of BBC, India now claims to be the world's largest English-speaking country. The most reliable estimate is around 10% of its population, or about 125 million people, second only to the US and expected to quadruple in the next decade. In the present scenario, English plays a multidimensional role. In the 21st century, the entire world has become narrow, accessible, shareable, and familiar for all the people living on this earth, as English is used as a common language. Even though there are some variations in habits, culture, traditions, regions, and idiosyncratic aspects, as English has got the common qualities, it has been accepted as the global language among the speakers of thousands of different languages. Since science and technology is progressing, there are a tremendous change taking place in lives of human beings everywhere in the world. As a result, the whole world has become a global village, and the people have to maintain good relationship with other people. Moreover, business, trade, and commerce have been international, and most of the business organizations have their offices in most of the countries. In order to maintain international relationship in sciences, technology, business, and education and travel, and so on, English serves the purpose as a common language and as a global language. It is the language mostly used not only by the scientists, business organizations, and the internet, but also in higher education. As English plays a dominant role in almost all the fields in the present globalized world, there is a need to discuss its role as a global language. So, India has undertaken the gigantic task of rapidly developing its economy and becoming a powerful country. And to fulfill this, people must have up to date knowledge of the different branches of science. Without expert technicians, mechanics, and engineers, much progress is not possible. We need them in increasing numbers. In fact, in medical sciences, countries like China and Japan are 3 to 4 years behind India. The very reason for this is that these countries are giving very low importance to English language learning. Besides this, a growing nation has also to guard her against various internal dangers. Under such conditions, the selection of language to be studied by the youth of the country becomes very significant. English is the storehouse of scientific knowledge. Hence, its study is of great importance for a developing country like India. Being mindful of this, Government of India laid emphasis on how English can be better taught to both the rural and the urban students at all the levels of education, and in its new education policy introduced the bilingual method of teaching foreign language. The bilingual method is a foreign language teaching method in which the target language is taught through the usage of the mother tongue. Bilingual method is a combination of direct method and the grammar translation method. In direct method, the foreign language being taught is the only language used as the medium of instruction, while in the grammar translation method, the language is taught by word-to-word translation of the target language in the mother tongue. The bilingual method is a hybrid of both of these methods, as in the bilingual method, the mother tongue is used to clear the meaning when required, but word-to-word translation is not done. It was developed by Mr. C.J. Dodson in 1967, and the unit of bilingual method is a sentence. It is equivalent to the audio-visual method, in which educational material is taught through enhancing the sense of sight and the sense of hearing of the learners by means of films, photographs, recordings, etc. India, being a developing country, has been keen to develop in its students all the skills which make them on par with students all over the world. English is one of the official languages of India, but it is not the mother tongue of most of the population. In fact, even Hindi is also spoken by only 41% of the population as their mother tongue or native language. In South India, the mother tongues being spoken are Telugu, Tamil, and Kannada. Not only internationally, but within the country, English is the linking language. And it is being taught throughout the world, not because of any comparison, but because of the realization of its communicative and its educative value in the present scenario. In India, it is the second language being taught. For better understanding, it is required that students learn by linking certain words and sentences in their mother tongue, which will eventually help them to retain language and to understand it more clearly. There are 3 P's of bilingual methods, and the 3 P's is a teaching style to language teaching in and is the most common contemporary teaching practice that has been employed by the ESL professional around the world. The bilingual method is also based on these three basic principles: presentation, practice, and product. Here, each letter means a period of learning development. The first stage is called the presentation, where the teacher gives a description on a particular topic. The practice stage is time for the learners to use the language. The students practice and retain through speech over a period of time through gradual efforts. The product, being the learning of a foreign language, is created. Bilingual methods has many positive outcomes in the Indian education framework. The first point being that the time and labor is saved, as it is easy for the students to understand and eventually for the teacher to explain the intended meaning. It is less costly as there is no requirement for any extra technical equipment. Audiovisual aids are also not compulsory to use, making this a universal method which can be used anywhere at any time without the need of any technical resources. The only requirement being the knowledge of the subject. This makes it suitable for rural classrooms where there are less technical resources available. The student not only learn the targeted language, but they also improve their vocabulary and their proficiency of the mother tongue. They are made to practice both the languages at the same time, making them natural bilinguals. There are also there are also few demerits of this method. There are always two sides to a coin, and although they are mostly inconsequential, but they are existing demerits. Students sometimes become passive learners and cannot participate very much at times, as only the teacher is needed to use two languages for better explanation. There are a lot of regional differences when speaking a language, and at times meanings of word completely changes when used in a different context while translating from one language to another. There is a great chance that languages get mixed, especially when it comes to grammatical part, making students confused. The bilingual method is so much concentrated on the idea of clarifying the meaning of the text in the minds of the students that the practice of speech and writing is often ignored. And in implementation, this method is mostly suitable only in the lower classes and not in the higher education. In conclusion, I would like to say that the introduction of bilingual method is a very brilliant step taken by the Indian government. As history reflects, English has been a part of our education curriculum for more than a century now. We have been bilinguals ever since most of the population speaks more than one language. And the growing importance of English also shows that to be a strong competitor in the race of developing countries, our populations need to have a strong grip over the language. Moreover, the idea that English is a foreign language and we should not give it more importance than our mother tongue should be dropped. If we, for any sentimental reasons, marginalize the learning of English, we will be left behind as an economy. Bilingual method is of most benefit at the primary level of education, but it provides satisfactory results at all the levels of education. When a child connects the images sitting in his with those meaning in brain effortlessly, and he effortlessly understands the meaning of new words. And through repetition and imitation, a new neuron connection is sparked in the brain of the child, and one now which is now completely unforgettable. Thank you so much.
Hello, beta. What's your good name? Hello.
Good morning, ma'am. My name is Vanshika Dixit.
You are from which branch?
I am from BSc first year.
BSc first year. Okay. Well then, beta, you have presented very nice, wonderful, and we are very much impressed of it.
Actually, your voice is coming a little bit low. I can barely hear you.
You have presented very nicely, beta. Have you listening to me? Are you listening, beta? Are you listening?
Yes, ma'am, I'm listening.
Yes, beta. Now you are listening.
Yes, ma'am, I can listen.
Okay, you have presented very well, beta. Very
Thank you,
well.
ma'am. Thank you so much.
Presentations, your English, your matters is very nice, beta. Being a first year student is a very great achievement for you. Well done and keep it, beta. And it should be continued also. It should not be stopped today only or today for one day only.
Yes.
It should be continued. Whenever you got the opportunity, try to do like this. Okay? Well done.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Now, next one is Shrishti Mittal. Next one is Shrishti Mittal. Where are you, beta? Are you here, beta?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you listening to us?
Yes, ma'am.
The introduction of yours now.
Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to represent myself in front of everyone. I am a first-year student pursuing BCA from the Tirthankar Mahavir University, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Now, I would like to present my views on the topic English language and cultural adaptation.
Okay, beta, continue.
Many of you have heard that a famous former president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, once said that language is the roadmap of a culture. It tells you where people come from and where they are going. Elaborating my views on the English language has been regarded as a first global lingua franca. It has become the part and parcel of almost every existing field. We use it as an international language to communicate in the many fields, ranging from business to the entertainment. The English language opens a career of opportunity to those who speak this language anywhere in the world. With the fast evolving world, it is essential to have a common language which we can understand to make the best use of the data and information available. As a result, the English language has become the storehouse of various knowledge, ranging from social to the political field. Because it is a global language, it's obvious that learning the English language can help in getting a job easily. It's obvious easily. As it is the official language of 53 countries, learning it helps to break the language barriers. Most importantly, it is also the language of internet. Being a widely used language, it can help you to connect with people easily. Students who want to study abroad must definitely know this language. Nowadays, English is simply a language. It has also become the lifestyle. The vocabulary of this language is extremely rich and is an average of almost every 2 hours. There is one new word that is being added to it. It is a language that is dynamic and is continuously evolving. All this development is mainly due to the social media, where the majority of interactions take place in English. Now, talking about Indian culture. Indian culture is one of the oldest and the richest culture. It has a long shaped history. This country has a population of more than 1 billion, and in a culture which there are more than 700 languages spoken. Now talking about the disadvantages and the advantages. Firstly, I would like to talk about the negative impacts. Negative impacts on the westernization on Indian culture. First is dressing. Westernization is ruining the traditional clothing of Indian culture. For example, in India, the traditional dressing is sari, dhoti, kurta. However, today there are a lot of people wearing more than a Western clothes like jeans, t-shirts, and girls are wearing short skirts, top, etc. In India, there are approximately 25% of Western clothing. The change of fashion in India is now leading to the reduction of importance of Indian culture to many people. Second is language. In India, there are more than 700 languages spoken. However, many of these mother tongues languages are beginning to fade away. As usual, to get a good job, you must know the basic language English or other additional ones. So many people today are focusing on these languages and are forgetting about their mother tongue. Thus, this is making their religion less important. Not talking about the positive impact of cultural adaptation, first is modernization. The Western culture has impacted on India in many negative ways. However, it has also influenced India in many positive ways too. For example, it is making India more modern. The Indian culture is a very old culture and it is staying same forever. However, now the Western culture is changing. It is becoming more modern. Second is education. Westernization has also benefited the areas of education in India. When the British occupied India, they built many schools throughout the country, and this made the literacy increase and the poorest class of society had access to knowledge. Labor and public health are also the fields in which we can see many positive impacts. So, is Westernization a good impact or the bad impact? Westernization has brought it many negative impacts on India. However, it has also brought many benefits as well. Although there are more advantages of Westernization compared to the disadvantages, still India should take care of the globalization because in the future it will change India and destroy its religion, culture, and tradition. Now coming on the conclusion, India and Western both are different type of culture representing their own tradition and values. Indian culture refer to the custom, tradition, religions and set of rules that are followed in India. While the Western culture most commonly refers to the culture that is followed in America and Europe. But today, both the culture are going to be mixed, especially in India. India got major transformations under Westernization, but forgetting our traditional values is also a matter of concern. The Western culture has both positive as well as the negative impacts on India. Before ending my words, I want to remind you all one quote by the famous freedom fighter Mahatma Gandhi that we may have different religion, different languages, different colored skin, and the culture, but we all belong to the one human race and we must remember this forever. That's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Guys, and very impressive also. Try to continue your effort always. It's not a one-night game show. You have to participate always. Have you understood? And good.
Yes, ma'am.
Next one is
Thank you so
Ananya
much.
Pandey. Thank you, Beta. Have a good day. Ananya Pandey. Ananya Pandey, where are you?
Here,
Yes.
am I audible to you?
Yeah, of course you are able to me.
Okay. So, good morning, everyone. Here is Ananya Pandey. Firstly, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'll talk about English language teaching in the digital era. Firstly, I'll talk about hitherto. Now you all are thinking, what is it? Hitherto. It means history of English language teaching. English language learning in higher education has been developing from one period to the other period. In the 18th century, when modern languages began to enter in the curriculum of the grammatical rules were memorized. Written practices were done, By the 19th century, this method was considered as a standard method of teaching language. The textbooks were divided into chapters. Each chapter contained a certain grammatical rule, and rule was practices with a lot of written exercise. The first dictionary of Indian English to be published after independence was Hawkins, Common Indian Words in English. It is developed in 1984. The English language teaching tradition has been subject to tremendous change, especially throughout the 20th century. Perhaps more than any discipline, this tradition had been practices in various adaptations in language, classrooms all around the world for centuries. The outbreak of World War II heightened the need for Americans to become orally proficient in the languages of their allies and enemies alike. To this end, bits and pieces of the direct method were appropriated in order to form and support this new method, the army method, which came to be known in the 1950s as the audiolingual method. Assisted teaching English language in the digital era. Additional English language teaching takes place at higher levels of public and private schools also. After Hindi, English is the most commonly spoken, written, and read language of India, as it is Ind. It is very important language in some fields such as law, finance, education, and business. The popularity of English in the country has also posed problems for the regional and traditional languages within the country. At the national level, Hindi has a status of official language in language within the country. At the national level, Hindi has a status of official language in India. And English is recognized as a second official language for government and works. Teaching English depends on the potential excellence, skills, and update knowledge of English teachers. The role of English teacher in present context has remarkably changed because of various factors such as social, cultural, economic, and technology developments across the globe. The subject of teaching English at this level is very wide, and the difficulties the teacher faces were at large. Due to globalization, the world is changing rapidly. Hence, a teacher has to improve and update knowledge of initiative techniques at meet the demand of changing era. English language teachers must be innovative, imaginative, and resourceful and have thorough knowledge of the subject and adopt new techniques to change socio-economic status of the country. The powerful information and communication technologies available have opened up new social and educational opportunities, creating new needs and requiring the development of new skills. Digital technology provides children with a great number of opportunities to practice their English. Children growing up in a supportive digital environment are learning the skills that they will need for their future studies and careers. By using multimedia technology to incorporate pictures or video into the lesson, the English teacher can provide students within the necessary contextual cues to understand new concepts. Language learner is able to see addressed while listening to the information. Digital era English language teachers have four important responsibilities. Firstly, to know the availability of the online resources and to make language learning effective. Context based selections of the resources according to student group and develop suitable activities that will create opportunities for enhancing both language and digital skills. Need to teach the skills necessary to function in digital era, including reading and writing, digital text, and communicating and publishing online. Digital text and communicating. Digital literacy skills are done seamlessly and in an integrated manner so that the language course is a coherent whole rather than a collection of loose components. Now we'll talk about the impact of English. Okay, technology influence English language teaching, right? Technology has always been an important part of teaching and learning environment. It is an essential part of the teacher's profession through the which they can use it facilitate learners learning. When we talk about technology in teaching and learning, the word integration is used. Within technology being part of our everyday lives, it is time to rethink the idea of integrating technology into the curriculum and aim aimed technology into teaching to support the learning process. Technology becomes an integral part of the learning experience and a significant issue for English language teachers. It provides so many alternatives as making teaching interesting and more productive in terms of advancement. In traditional classrooms, teachers stand in front of learners and give lecture explanation and instruction through using blackboard or whiteboard. These methods must be changed concerning the development of technology. The usage of multimedia text in classroom assists learners in become familiar with the vocabulary and language structures. The application of multimedia also makes use of print text, film, and internet to enhance learners' linguistic knowledge. Now we will talk about the background of English. What is the background of English? Okay, electronic communication has evolved as a 21st century phenomena with its own distinctive graphic style, which is full of abbreviations and deviant use of language, which some believe is fostering a decline in literacy and basically harming language as a whole. This situation has definitely generated a sense of moral panic in many countries. It has also generated great debates, but some scholars, the likes of Crystal and Barron, do not share such fears. As far as Crystal and Barron are considered, the same kind of fear was exercised with the arrival in the Middle Ages of printing, which has thought by many to be the invention of the devil because it would put all kinds of false opinions into people's minds. And the arrival of the telegraphs, telephone, and broadcasting also generated short lived fears that the fabric of society was under threat. What is the focus and thrust of this presentation? Okay. Reports of advances in e-learning applications in some quarters have prompted researches, discussions, and interested in blended learning and teaching to facilitate communication through the collaboration, interaction, and communication building. Integrating ICTs into language teaching. What is the problem? I will talk about what is the problem in teaching by teachers. There has been a great deal of effort in the last 1 decade on researching and documenting of the impact of ITs in education. Andrews was instance document as a review of such impact on English language, teaching and literacy, learning between 1990 and 2003. Similarly, researches on implementing ICT integration have continued at great pace across the globe. Therefore, bridging the gap between highly developed educational systems and developing ones like Nigeria and the larger parts of Africa calls for an evaluation of what is available and how these developing educational systems might leverage the ICTs for their good. Now I will talk about multimedia as a source of teaching. As we all know, technology plays a very vital role in this era. Okay, the digital era can also be defined as a multimedia technological era. The word itself considers the meaning of it, an era which contains everything digital. We all just sat at our study table and kept on learning something new every single day. This is what we call multimedia or digital era. Multimedia is the combined form of words, multiple and media, while its counterpart is monomedia. Basically, it includes wall, charts, slide projectors, video, some television channels, PowerPoint presentations, email, bulletin board system, language labs, digital libraries, and multimedia reading rooms. Now, I'll talk about the conclusion. Due to globalization, English has got the status of global language and international language. English is a powerful market language and transaction of modernization. The changing scenario of English is impacted on English curriculum and teaching methodologies to cater the need of digital era. According to Abbott site, the reasons for teachers' inability to integrate technology in their practice are many and complex, ranging from inadequate ICT skills of teachers and institutional ICT readiness to attitudes towards technology and knowledge of the technologies and the know-how of integration. The situation in Nigerian institutions is that intricate blends of these factors play out. But for the English language teacher aiming for success in 21st century, no one can be left off the hook. Technological innovations have gone hand in hand with the growth of English and are changing the way in which we communicate, work, trade, entertain, and learn. Obviously, the growth and the internet has facilitated the growth of the English language, and that is has occurred at a time when computers are no longer the exclusive domain of the dedicated few, but rather widely available to many. Therefore, electronic communication is changing the English language, usually partly because it gives rise to new vocabulary, but more importantly because the medium and its user drive to the language in certain directions. A number of new programs using multimedia, the CD-ROM, the internet, and DVDs are coming into the market. They integrate the audio, video, and graphic materials. For example, a type of a software, hypertext, consists of text materials that can explode by students in a variety of ways. The students can select certain words with a mouse or cursor and get synonyms, paragraphism, grammatical analysis, maps, pictures, audio, rendition, and any other information like etymology, etc. Within a split second, students can read literacy text and call up explanation onto computer screen. With the help of digital media, we can offer students not only rich sources of authentic learning materials, but also an attractive and friendly interface. Vivid pictures and pleasant sounds, which to a large extent overcomes the lack of authentic language environment and arouses students' interest in learning language. In a recent study, the data found that the time period of last 8 months, the number of digital learners is increased approximately 79%. We have been on the dark side of teaching and learning, but we don't have any other alternative other than doing it only. Thank you so much.
Thank you, beta. Well done. बहुत अच्छा. Keep on doing this type of presentation always. Have you understood, beta?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. You don't have to lose your word here. Always try to do better and better next time. After all,
Okay.
this was very good, very nice. Being a very, I think you're a first year student now.
Yes, ma'am. I'm from
Being a
first
first
year.
year student is a very, very good and keep it. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Next one is Sonal. 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 Sonal Jain. Where are you, beta? हाँ? आप है, आप कहाँ देंगी? ऑफलाइन देंगी? आइए. कब बेटा?
my team members, Mr. Animation and Ms. Harshadajan, and we are from BTech CSC AI MLDL second year. So now not taking you too much time, let's start this presentation. And here our topic is online versus offline classes. As we are very familiar about this, here online learning is referred to as e-learning. E-learning means to say the learning which is done with the help of laptop, mobile phone and many other electronic devices. It is also termed as distance learning. Distance learning as we can conduct from everywhere. It is not compulsory for us to attend proper classes at college and at everywhere. So nowadays online classes become a need of this present generation. As we are very familiar with some classes, some online classes like Byju's and many other classes which conduct online classes for the better understanding of students. Online classes cost more for students as well as institutes. As an institute, there are no annual charges and many other. And for students, its cost low as internet connection costs very low as compared to the expenses they paid during offline classes. Benefits of offline classes as it teaches us the time management. As for the students like us who used to live in hostels and far away from our houses, offline classes teaches us the time management as we have to manage everything by their own. Offline classes make it possible to survive in different atmospheres. As same for the students like us who used to stay away from their home, we have not much facilities as far as compared to our houses. So we have to make a habit to survive in each and every atmosphere, which is only possible when we attend offline classes. As it increases concentration. During online classes, there are lack of concentration due to so many distractions, but in offline classes, there are so much concentration, and due to this concentration, students used to understand well. There are some disadvantages of offline classes also, as traveling expenses. As the students, there are a lot of traveling expenses they spend in offline classes for the distance they travel from their home to their institutes. Fixed schedule. As in offline classes, there are fixed schedule for each and every student from a fixed from 9 to 4 or 7 to 2. Expensive mode of study. Offline classes are very expensive mode of study as there are so much traveling expenses and many much fees students spend as compared to online classes. Loss in studies. As in some cases, if students take a leave, he or she will miss the whole classes of that particular day, which is not possible if we are as online classes as we can conduct it everywhere. Lack of advanced technology. As in offline classes, we are not familiar with some advanced softwares like the software we came to know during this lockdown. Benefits of online classes. As I already mentioned that online classes cost low to students as well as to institutes. Benefits of online classes as it costs low to students as well as to institutes. Lack of loss in studies as online classes can take from each and every corner of this entire world, so there is no chance of loss in studies. Save traveling time. As for the students, it saves traveling time. Get from their home to their institutes. Teaches us more about advanced technologies. In online classes, we came to know about most advanced technologies. And most like nowadays, everything is done online. So, which is only done through when we attend the class. Disadvantages of online classes. Like network issues. There are as network issues from the side of students as well as from the sides of teachers also, which creates a lot of problem during the classes. Restricting cheating instances. As there are no restricting cheating instances. As there is a not a particular advance to take proper exams in online semester. In online classes, there is a lot of cheating, so a lot of second and many other ways just to give the exams. Online security. As for the user, if any user uses any software, so he or she might be sure about the security. So there are some other disadvantages, like there are some free applications which are not so much secure for the users. Monotony in the sense boredom. In online classes, as students used to spend many hours in front of laptops or mobile, so it creates a boringness or a boredom and headache also. Like 66.9%, which done online classes at the first time, which is their on experience with online classes during first time, and a very little portion is for the institute, which doesn't switch themselves in online classes. With some problems also, there are solution of the problems we face during online classes, and the solution is that we have to create a software which take a less GB of data, so that students or teachers can run classes properly without any source of distraction. Having arrangement which reduce cheating instances or chances up to some extent. In online classes, as we all very well know that we cannot remove cheating instances all over or all properly, but we can reduce it up to a great extent. Is secure. As I already mentioned that there are some free softwares which are not secured for the users. So we have to create a software or any other which is secured, and the user might trust over them. Reduce monotony. Reduce monotony in the sense just to provide some interesting things of whiteboards or many other things or many other chances to reduce boredom and to create a fun. Having a great ability to conduct proper assessments. In the sense that there are MCQs type questions, but we have tried to just have a great ability to conduct the assessment, as we conduct assessments properly and very well, so that there are reduced cheating instances and the students might become a fun to giving exams. Conclusion. So at last, I just only want to mention that both online and offline classes are good at their own. But according to my opinion, if you ask, so I think the offline classes is better, as it teaches us some social values which helps to increase our social status. So both the classes are good, but in my opinion, offline is better. So at last, I only want to mention the thanks for my on the side of my team also, just to listen me and give me your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have very nicely presented your topic and keep it up. Next, next is Harshit Jain. Yes. Harshita.
नहीं सर, हर्षित जैन,
Harshit Jain.
हाँ जी, आर्यन जैन and प्रफुल्लित,
Yes. Who is present?
प्रफुल्लित वशिष्ठ.
Okay.
Online.
Okay, please do come. Prafullit Vasist, please do come.
Good morning, sir. And I am Harshit Jain from BCA first year, and my topic is trend of English language in current scenario. So I have been here. English language is the widely spoken language in the current scenario. It is adopted as a common language in the modern era. English plays an important role in multi-dimensional role in day-to-day life. It is used as a medium of communication in railway station, airport, education sector, and private sector, etc. English is a linked language and it is used in trade, business both at national and international. English is a very important this modern world. It is very important to have good English because effective communication can reach people better. English language plays an important role in our lives. It helps in communication and it is a main language for study and subject worldwide. English is important for students in broaden their minds, develop emotional skills, improve the qualities of life. By providing job opportunity, the goals of learning a language is directly linked to the growth of LS skills. English is also used for interaction between state and interstate. Communication. Communication as a natural mechanism affects the human communication practice as a whole. Social development is a prominent features of effective communication strategy that are the needed to situation growth and development. English is a linked language. It is important for international communication. Is global communication expand throughout the world? So does the need for a global language? English is the only the language that is recognized and understood by the people in the many parts of the world. It is estimated the number of native English speakers is 300 million to 450 millions. More than 1 billion people are believed to speak some form of English. The use of English as an international language is growing with time because it is a source of communication in many countries. English is also used widely in the literature and media section of publication. For most of the writers, English language due to the very majority of readers know only the English language and they can describe their best ideas in the English language. The need to learn a language emerges from the point of view of ability, effectiveness, utility, and university. Ability to teach. Communication is a communication with other of thoughts, ideas, and opinions. This may be essential academic work is spoken on real. We live in groups and man in a social animals. We share our opinions with other and the social needs of them. The two-way communication mechanism and advice. According the alert changing behavior and establish good relationship in order to make meaningful contact and knowing one another. Indian has a great ethic and linguistic diversity, so we can't see as an important base language. Due to the rapid advance of IT research, biology, education, mass communication, computer and opening system, a new tool for written oral media in the field. Communication is a big involves systematic and communication process of speaking, listening and understanding. English plays an important role of Indian education system. One can achieve success in a field because of English is a vocabulary and the terminology is the used different fields in technology, medicine is available in the English language only. The text of communication is skill and vocabulary. Over the year, in a particle, the last 10 years, English language is a teaching has undergone enormous change. Student has burden with reading, understanding and absorbing the material and of course lectures. One consider travel such as a communication skill, soft skill and technical skill. The ICT literature etc. and the current gazing province. People attitude to what they consider as a language they change a lot. The importance of English in the business in attachment without language there. We can't share ideas and grow them to into something new. Whether is this means learning our organic language. So you can't share ideas with people who came from a different country. So simply learning how to use English language to master and interview demand depends in our room. No network with other language in a way. For knowledge, English is important for essay, access to any data, including information superhighway environment. There is a spare no information. Available is a English. English is a language for IT and information. So thank you for listening me.
Good, beta. Well, keep it up and keep on doing this always. Okay.
Now we will take a break of 45 and then we'll start with the session.
Now we're going to take a break for 45 minutes, then we will continue our session again. Thank you and good day.
graceful good afternoon to our most valuable, respected director sir, MPs, faculty members, and everyone gathered here. Welcome you all in valedictory session of National Conference English Language Teaching Issues and Challenges in Indian Perspective, organized by Department of Humanities, FOECS, TMU. Firstly, I would like to call Dr. Sonia Jain, convener of the conference, to present the report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected director, sir, respected HOD, sir, and all my dear colleagues. It's an honor for me to present the report before you. Our conference went very well. Department of Humanities organized a national e-conference on English language teaching, the issues and challenges in Indian perspective, in collaboration with ELTAI NCR, English Language Teachers Association of India, on 22nd October and 24th October. The event was graced by Chief Guest Srimati Nirma Katia, Honorable Minister of State for Higher Education and Science and Technology, Government of UP. Professors from renowned universities and college also joined us as keynote speakers. The program started with the lighting of lamp by the dignitaries and our guest of honor, Dr. Archana Rathod. Ms. Neha Anand welcomed all the dignitaries and invited them to the dais. Respected Director, Sir, Professor R.K. Dwivedi delivered the welcome address and told about the importance of English communication by quoting a very relevant example from Chetan Bhagat's famous novel, Half Girlfriend. He then welcomed and invited Chief Guest of the conference, Srimati Nirma Katia. Chief Guest Srimati Nirma Katia, Honorable Minister of State for Higher Education and Science and Technology, Government of UP. First of all, she congratulated and appreciated Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Raghuveer Singh Sir, respected Director, Professor Dr. R.K. Dwivedi, and the Department of Humanities for organizing this conference, which she said is important in these times when we are celebrating Diamond Jubilee of the freedom of our country and moving ahead from Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam towards Vocal for Local. It is a time to represent our country on global platform and inform them about the progress and achievements of our country. Global connectivity is the need of the day and interaction and communication is the medium. Therefore, it becomes very important for us to have command over English language. She gave her best wishes for the success of the conference. Next, Honorable VC Sir, Professor Raghuveer Singh Sir, congratulated the Department of Humanities for bringing this conference. He said the emphasis should be laid on language learning rather than teaching, as it is a need, as we need to involve the students as well. He also said that learning is all the more important, as if idea is not encoded properly and it is grammatically incorrect, then message will not be complete and the proper outcome cannot be achieved. So learning English language is the need of the hour. With this, he wished the conference a grand success. Professor R.P. Singh, Professor of Department of English and Modern European Language, University of Lucknow, he talked about the different methods of ELT, the grammar transition method, the direct method, the audiolingual method, community language, etc. He said that we have heterogeneous perspective in our class, so we should adopt creative methodology of teaching and authentic tools for putting our message across. Next address was by Dr. R.B. Sharma, English Associate Professor, Department of English and Modern European Language. Professor Sharma said that English language studies have a lot of possibilities for students. We have to focus on research in India. We have to come out of the dynamics and parameters within which we have been teaching, and we need to focus on the research in India instead of depending on the Western world. Our guest of honor, Dr. Archana Rathod, discussed about the importance of English language, but she also emphasized on the fact that role of native language is very important in learning any second language. After a break of 1 hour, we started with a technical session. Technical session was chaired by Dr. Zareem Farooq and Dr. Sandeep Verma. Near about 10 papers were presented from all over India in our technical session. The presenters who presented their papers are Dr. Mayuri Chaturvedi, Dr. Sonal Sharma, Dr. Sonia Gauri, Dr. Babita Tyagi, Dr. Shani, Dr. Bhavna Singh, Rachna Saxena, Dr. Amit Shukla, Kanchan Gupta, and Dr. Asim Ahmed. We started with our technical session, second technical session on 23rd of October at 10:30. It was again chaired by Dr. Sandeep Verma and Dr. Zareen Farouk. Our keynote speaker of the day was Dr. Pramod Kumar Mehra from Department of English, IGNOU. He said that ELT teachers should use a pedagogy which can cater the needs of the students of a particular class. The methods which we have been using since decades need to be changed, and as those methods are not apt in the contemporary times. Again, near about 10 papers were presented, and the name of the presenters are Vanshika Dikshit, Miss Hindu Tripathi, Mr. Sayam Jain, Miss Aliza Parveen, Miss Anjali, Miss Shrishti Mittal, Miss Sweetie Sani, Mr. Abhinav Jain, Miss Ananya Pandey, Mr. Saksham Saxena. Some presenters are left, which will connect with our technical session again at 12:45, and the remaining presenters will present their paper they'll start to present their papers at 12:40. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now I would like to invite our guiding source, enlightened Professor R.K. Dwivedi, Director, Principal of FOECS. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Madam Indu. Good afternoon, everybody. Respected Professor Gupta, Head of the Departments, my worthy faculty colleagues, Dr. Sonia Jain, Convener of the conference, and the Humanities Department as a whole. I, on the behalf of entire Faculty of Engineering and on my own behalf, I would like to convey my sincere thanks and congratulations for organizing this wonderful conference, national conference, in very relevant topic. English language teaching issues and challenges. The country like India, which is having a diversity in many dimensions, and language is perhaps one of the bigger dimensions. Language and culture is one of the bigger dimensions. As we know that after the independence of India, our major work related to the study was in English. We are in technology domain, economics domain, science domain. All the books of at least postgraduate and PhD levels and research journals are in form of English. Our country workforce, human resource, was not very much prepared to face such kind of language challenge, because our potential got somehow suppressed, because the main fuel, which is known as communication is the one kind of fuel, important fuel, because fuel, यहाँ पर हमारे सभी सहयोगी हैं डिफरेंट इंजीनियरिंग स्ट्रीम से, फ्यूल का वो मतलब बखूबी जानते हैं कि अगर व्हीकल को रन करना है और फ्यूल नहीं है, व्हीकल कितना ही अच्छा है, व्हीकल चलेगा नहीं. ठीक है. So this English has suppressed the talent and intellect and potential of each and every Indian. because we were having a very finest human resource. Almost in India, कर्मयोगी होते हैं इंडिया में, क्योंकि लॉर्ड कृष्णा हैज नरेटेड द कर्म योग इन श्रीमद् भगवद गीता. वो कभी काम करने से पीछे नहीं है, बट they must have an understanding how the things are conceptualized and further disseminated for the execution. And that fuel was missing because this language has created a lot of barrier. We were not able to understand. Yesterday in my address, I cited as Madam has narrated that what kind of problems we actually facing, those who are from northern state of India, especially those who are not done their schooling in convent background. They are having a tremendous potential, but they are not able to do well because in higher studies, the entire medium of study got changed. Now people have started realizing that there is also some kind that we have to promote our own language. Many countries did that. China and Japan are the finest example of that. That the entire technological thing they have transformed in their own language. We are on that path. However, to understand it well and to give a faster execution, we must learn the global language first of all, to understand that what is ongoing things. And for that, I must thank you, Dr. Sonia, and your team. Very nicely it is executed, and Honorable Minister of State of Higher Education, Science and Technology, she has also emphasized that if as a country we would like to grow, we must have an adequate understanding of global language, because English is not a foreign language. Now this is a global language, and if we want a country as a whole to be recognized as a global human resource, as a force, because our intellectual capacity in many dimensions are very good. All right, we are the people who is knowing to how to create a balance amongst society, amongst people. Rest of the people of the world, they are also knowing this, but the level of sacrifice, the level of adjustment, the level of temperament we have. And if we have an adequate understanding of language, बात करने से ही बात बनती है, ये तो सभी को पता है. And acceptability and adaptability, if people is having in their mind, body, heart and soul, definitely outcome. So with this note, I thank you on my own behalf and on behalf of entire FOE and CCSIT, that is FOE and CS, that very relevant and useful conference is going to be accomplished shortly, and I hope we'll also communicate this fact amongst our students so that they may not be hesitating, or if they are having hesitation to learn English language, they must be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It is my privilege to deliver a vote of thanks speech and acknowledge the contribution of those who worked really hard to make this conference successful. I, Indu Tripathi, on behalf of Department of Humanities, extend my most sincere thanks to Almighty God for making the conference a resounding success. With the blessing of Honorable Chancellor, Shri Suresh Jain sir, GBC sir, Shri Manish Jain sir, and Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Raghuveer Singh, The conference came in its effective shape. I extend a really hearty vote of thanks to our chief guest, Srimati Nilima Patiar ji, who spared time from her busiest schedule to grace the occasion virtually. My gratitude to all the keynote speakers for gracing the occasion and sharing their opinions. Their thoughts have enlightened our minds and have shown us a new path. We had an opportunity to listen the thoughts of keynote speakers, Professor R.P. Singh, Dr. R.V. Sharma, Professor Pramod Kumar Mehra, and Dr. Archana Rathore, and this surely encouraged us to organize more future events. I extend my warm thanks to Director Sir, Professor R.K. Dwivedi. Only because of you, sir, this conference could come on practical ground in an efficient way. And your regular encouragement made us effective all time. Thank you very much, sir. I would like to say thanks to Ajay Chakravarti sir as technical coordinator, Shikha Gambhir ma'am as designer of banners and other print work, and Manoj Gupta sir with his team who are ever ready and supported us very well. I am immensely thankful to Dr. Sandeep Verma sir for his media support, which one of the most important tasks to visualize our efforts. Thank you, sir. And I thanks to Dr. Jareen ma'am for her lively and joyful cooperation. I extend my thanks to Ms. Neha Anand for her marvelous efforts towards anchoring in conference inaugural. I need to mention my deepest sense of appreciation and thanks to Dr. Ajay Padhya sir, Dr. Vipin, Professor K. Gupta sir, Dr. Shambhu Bhadra sir, Dr. Ashish Saxena sir, and Mr. Ankish Sharma sir from Civil Department for their commendable support in our work. Thank you very much, sir. I also extend thanks to Mr. Nikhil and Mr. Aditi for their enormous cooperation. I thank to Mr. Anugrah from Humanity Department for his best efforts. An event like this cannot be happen overnight. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of competent colleagues who are well versed in their job. I am short of words for their involvement and their willingness to take on the completion of the task beyond their comfort zone. With a deep sense of appreciation, we thank our delegates, students who are the main bones of this conference. Thanks for their contribution as authors, presenters, and participants. My hearty and special thanks to Dr. Sonia Jain ma'am, whose well-versed coordination make us feel very comfortable every time and rest could be taken up. Thanks, ma'am. And last but not least, a big thank you to each one of you who made this conference memorable for all of us. Thanks to all. Thank you very much. So time is to close, and we are I just request to all for national anthem. And after national anthem, I request to all to proceed in G2 for refreshment.
भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जगति शुभ नामे जागे शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे लग जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे
भारत माता की जय।